Hi, everyone, and welcome to StudioJake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. Thank you so much for joining me today. Before I dive into the topic, I just wanted to remind you to like this video, share it out, leave me a comment, tell your friends about me, and be sure to subscribe. Help me get to 1,000 subscriptions. I'm just over 700, and so any and all definitely help me or will help me in reaching that goal. All of you rock, and I appreciate everyone who listens, even the haters, because hey, you raise my engagement, so thank you. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the corporate press, the mainstream media, some people refer to it as, and if you follow me on any social media outlet, you know that I'm a huge critic of the corporate press. I think that they are definitely more in it for the money. They more want to, instead of bringing you the news, they want to bring their own spin on the news. Now, I am under no delusions. I'm a commentator. Sometimes I report things and they frustrate me, and I show that on camera. And sometimes I like things, I'm very excited about it, and I show that on camera. I don't try to tell you that I'm an objective journalist. I'm definitely a commentator. This is what I do. The problem with the corporate press, whether it be CNN, MSNBC, News Nation, NPR, the Associated Press, they try to come at you and tell you that, we have a certain objectivity because our people went to a fancy school and they have a fancy piece of paper that fancy school gave them. Ergo, we're your betters, and we will not only report the news, we will give you our spin on it because we are more important than you, and you should love us and thank us and kiss our boots as we walk through the streets. And I'm not about that. I am completely on board with citizen journalists and whatnot. Now, that's not to say everything they print is false or a lie or whatever. Sometimes it's, a lie by omission, whatever the case may be. But for the most part, I see the corporate press as, you know, as more of they're just in it for the money, they're just in it for views, and their whole premise is, despite the air of objectivity they bring, is to really tell you how to think, not tell you to think on this. So, whatever the case may be, we saw major firings in two huge networks, and of course, one of which is Tucker Carlson. This is something everyone has been talking about. And it was major because Tucker Carlson at Fox News was their biggest name. He was pulling in ratings that weren't just records for the network, but on cable news as a whole. And it's just stunning. This is from thepublica.com. Tucker Carlson and Fox News are parting ways, the network announced Monday. In a statement, Fox News Media thanked Carlson for his service to the network as a host and prior to that as a contributor. Mr. Carlson's last program was Friday, April 21st, and they go through the announcement, and it's very interesting, because we've seen different reactions and different people giving their perspectives, but he was not the only major name who was ousted from their hosting gig. No. CNN let go of Don Lemon. He, of course, used to host his own show, but then he got demoted and he got sent up to their morning show, where he frequently clashed with his host, or at least that's what rumors have said. Rumors are nasty things. Don't believe them. But judging from just his on-air antics, it would not surprise me. This is also from thepublica.com. Don Lemon has been fired from his anchor role at CNN. Lemon announced on Twitter that his agent informed him of his termination. The news comes after allegations that Lemon had been abusive to female coworkers. I was informed this morning by my agent that I have been terminated by CNN. I am stunned. After 17 years at CNN, I would have thought that someone in management would have had the decency to tell me directly. At no time was I ever given any indication that I would not be able to continue to do the work I have loved at that network. It is clear that there are some larger issues at play. With that said, I want to thank my colleagues and the many teams I have worked with for an incredible run. They are the most talented journalists in the business, and I wish them all the best. Now, CNN disputes this. They actually are they have actually said they did offer Don Lemon a chance to speak with someone in management, but he turned them down. So I don't know who you're going to believe. Don Lemon is famous for misrepresenting the facts, misdescribing things, downright misinformation, and but that's CNN as a whole, right? That's kind of their gig, is sending out misinformation into the atmosphere. That is what they do, and I just found it interesting that on the same week we had one of the highest rated personalities, Tucker Carlson, and one of the lowest rated personalities, Don Lemon, get fired at the same time. This is really interesting to me. It harkens back to a couple of weeks ago when there was this big shakeup in conservative media, right? Louder with Crowder had a dispute with conservative host at the Daily Wire. We saw there was a big issue at the Blaze and whatnot. Now, I personally don't watch Fox News. I don't watch CNN. Obviously, for my monologue, you probably guessed that. So, what does this look like? What does this mean? That on one hand, we have the highest rated anchor and the lowest rate, or one of the lowest. He's not the lowest of all time, but one of the lowest anchors being fired. For me, the Tucker Carlson one, it stems from the idea that he's more on the populist scale of conservatism. Don Lemon, on the other hand, is incredibly left wing. He's very progressive in his ideas and whatnot. And what I see happening in this shakeup is I think the cable news industry is waking up to the fact that there are rumblings that digital media is starting to move into their space, right? Now, obviously, not guys like me, being under 1,000 subscribers, but you see how podcasts, how YouTube hosts or Rumble hosts are starting to move into this space where the news media was once dominant, and the cable news network is not willing or is unable to make the changes they need to survive in this new environment. We all know that the big advent of cord cutting, that happened in the 2010s and continues into the 2020s. We're seeing things shift in the media landscape. Now, if I was to give an opinion, I think Tucker Carlson was let go, obviously being unceremoniously. His last words on his last show were, "I'll see you next week," or "I'll see you on Monday," I think is the exact quote. So he had no idea that this was coming. And I think where this is being connected is, in his case, the Murdochs, who own Fox Corp, the parent company of Fox News, they've always been sort of in that more moderate conservative wing. And sure, they have hosts like Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham, who do tend to be in that neocon space. But Tucker Carlson was not in that space, right? He's not a warmonger. He's very supportive of blue collar workers. And I honestly think with him and with possible future firings, we're going to start seeing a pattern that they're going to weed out, so to speak, those voices. I predict possibly that Judge Jeanine is going to be next. And we're going to see more folks like Paul Ryan, who sits on the board of Fox Corp, more people molded after him are going to move in. And with CNN, I think CNN is just waking up to, they used to be number one in cable news, then they're number two, and now they're barely number three. And even if you look at the landscape of cable as a whole, they're not even in the top 10 most watched channels. So I think they're waking up to this fact, and I think with the merger with Warner Brothers Discovery, which is the parent company of CNN, I think we're going to see more shifts where they are going to try to put on an air of objectivity, but they're going to try to hide their bias a little bit better. I think with Don Lemon, he was just such a frequent disseminator of fake news, if you will, that it couldn't protect the brand, right? The brand of CNN. I also think that's why Brian Stelter was let go was all he did was whine about news organizations that had higher ratings than CNN. He was supposed to be their media critic, the guy who reported on the news, on the media, but all he did was whine about Fox or Newsmax or One American News, whatever the case might be. He didn't actually talk about what was going on in the media. He didn't talk about trends. He didn't talk about who was wrong in this case. Now, I'm not saying you have to do inside baseball here, but this idea that Brian Stelter was any sort of purveyor of truth is nonsense, and same with Don Lemon. Now, Tucker Carlson, he would be the first to tell you he was a commentator, and certainly his revelations on the January 6th tapes was absolutely groundbreaking. When you have politicians freak out over it the way they did over that report, that you're doing something. And I think he knew he was doing something. Now, was he getting too close to something that the Murdochs didn't even want revealed, something that Paul Ryan didn't even want revealed? That's certainly possible. But I just think that whatever the case may be, I don't know what will happen to either of them. Tucker Carlson perhaps could join a new news organization if his contract allows for it. He could start his own YouTube channel. I think he would be really big. That's what Megyn Kelly did. Same with Don Lemon. I have no reason to think he won't be successful, in the right marketplace. It's just CNN, the direction they were going, he wasn't the right marketplace. Maybe he has a following. I don't know. The ratings, in my opinion, don't really reflect that. But perhaps he will be successful somewhere else. Like I said, I have absolutely no reason to doubt that or to think otherwise. Whatever the case may be for both of them, I think they'll land on their feet just fine. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if we see some sort of political aspirations for Tucker or for Don. I could see a world where Don would want to try to run for office, even though he's got several harassment lawsuits against him, or maybe not several. That's probably incorrect. He's got at least one harassment lawsuit against him, and also his, colleagues at CNN don't seem to like him very much. Just looking at it from watching, I remember when he was interviewing a GOP candidate recently, and his co-host, Poppy Harlow, I think is her name, she was like looking off. She was like scrolling on her phone. She kept like doodling on her pad. I mean, it was obvious she just had no respect for what Don Lemon was doing in that moment. So with Tucker, he seemed to have the respect of his colleagues. He would be brave and interview people and talk to people he disagreed with, and I think that is something that is interesting. I think it's wherever Tucker grows, it will have a limited success. Megyn Kelly said on the Glenn Beck program that she thinks that he will lose some influence just from being out of the public spotlight, and that's to be expected, and same with Don Lemon. But wherever they land, I think they'll bring something. People might tune in just out of curiosity, and it's up to them if they can maintain that wave. But certainly, I mean, there's no dispute. Tucker Carlson is the bigger name between the two. Whatever he does, it will bring in a larger audience. And I honestly think with Fox News, this decision to oust your number one host of all time, I think it was a bad decision. I'm just going to be honest. Don Lemon, I don't think his departure will affect CNN at all. If anything, it might bring people back depending on who they put in his spot on the morning show. But I don't think that his departure will have a negative impact on CNN. But whatever the case may be, who knows? We'll just have to wait and find out and see where they land. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up, that you'll leave me a comment and tell me what you think, that you'll share it out with your friends, and of course, consider subscribing to StudioJake. I cover all kinds of nerd and pop culture topics, including film, television, anime, comic books, and so much more. I hope that you'll also head over to my main website, StudioJakeMedia.com, where I have even more news, views, and commentary. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, head over to my locals page. That's studiojakemedia.locals.com. It's the best way to support me. I'm trying to build a little community there. I have exclusive reviews and articles, so definitely head over there and check it out. And I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.